Let me come at you with this question, Mohammed, before we get going here. If you were writing a short message to policymakers right now, one key action they should take, what would it be and why?
That realize that our future is going to be at the tails of distribution, not in the belly. For a long time, we grew up with unifying themes, the Washington Consensus, globalization. We are now living in a world of fragmentation, in a world that structurally changes. And what happens at the tails are going to determine where we end up. So don't get fooled by a normal distribution, a bell-shaped distribution. Realize we're in a multimodal world.
Always a treat to get some time with you. I always enjoy our conversations. Mohamed El-Erian Allianz, Chief Economic Advisor. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us here at Invest. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I want to get back to the labor question a little bit,
Sure.
Because we keep seeing pretty dismal both anecdata and data about Gen Z and then Gen Alpha in this job market, that it's tough for them to get jobs.
Yeah.
What skills do these people need in the age of AI, especially as you talk about really the shifting of the job market?
Yeah.
What do they need to know?
There's going to be a little more of what we call the whole brain type of skill, right? My generation, part of our generation, you could be really a STEM person, and as a result of that, there was a premium on being able to process data and come up with insights and analytics around that data. And now you have this new tool and a set of agents that can actually do that much more efficiently, much more quickly, and serve you, in essence, the synthesis of the data based on what it is you're looking for. And now what do you do with that? And so those who get actually a little bit more whole brain, creative, thoughtful, understanding the ecosystem, the EQ of intelligence, of engagement. I mean, look at our sales agents, for instance. For a period of time, most people think salespeople are selling all the time. And when you talk to them, they'll tell you that. Well, if you actually look at the data, they're only selling about 15% of the time. A lot of the time they're doing things from, putting up sales notes and, putting strategies together, all those sorts of things. Think about using a series of agents that prepare your salespeople to be more effective. So rather than them taking, hours to do, sales prep, it takes minutes. It's delivered at the time they're walking into the meeting. And now they can focus on, I call it the human aspects of what is it that solves the problem, the relationship that they need. Those are the things that are going to create massive productivity. So there's going to be some shakeout in those parts of the market. Do you need as much of the kind of the sales prep dynamics that we do today, which were often entry-level type jobs, right? But if you have the ability to also orchestrate agents to deliver that, you can actually now effectively treat and deliver to more salespeople that capability. So that's how this is all going to evolve in many of these instances.
An issue we've talked about before also when you talk about building out your workforce, as you well know, there's been a backlash against policies that aim at fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion. So when you think about recruiting, whether it's for Vista itself or for the portfolio companies, is there still a place for DEI in this environment? Is there still a business case for DEI?
The business case hasn't changed. It is, everyone knows the more diverse thought that you have, the lower risk, the higher returns, the data is all out there. Now, how people react to it, that's, a different instance, but the data is there. I tell our teams constantly, keep doing what you're doing, hire the best people, enable them to be effective, ensure that they have the ability to create the connectivity. In America in particular, we have to embrace the resources that we have at our disposal. The thing that we have done over the last 20, 30, 40 years is distribute capability globally, digital capability globally. So a lot of the things that always kept us on the leading edge, now are accessible everywhere. So as an economy, if you look about the US economy, you have to actualize as many people as possible using the tools that are available so that we can be the most productive workforce and deliver the most productivity per person, per country that we can in order to compete as a small country on a number of people basis relative to others. That's why for us it's important to deliver solutions that teach students. We have partnerships with some of them HBCUs where we deliver AI systems and curriculum to Morehouse and Spelman and now to other HBCUs. Our partnerships with code.org, we'll get to over 5 million students who are not only just teaching them code, but now it's AI-centric coding, all those sorts of things. We have to equip that K through 12 and then higher ed groups of students to understand this is the new paradigm of how work's going to be done. You need to embrace it. You need to become a master of how it is utilized and understand how to scale it, not just in corporations, but also in starting businesses, encouraging people to actually use the unique insights they have as entrepreneurs from the communities that they come with to develop businesses and expand those businesses at a much more rapid pace using these technologies and these platforms. That's where the opportunity set really lies for us.
Robert, as I mentioned, you have written a number of books, and the latest book highlights speeches from Martin Luther King Jr., but sort of through the lens, and you add some commentary on your own experiences and reflections. And I'm curious whether you think at this current moment in this country, there's been backsliding in terms of racial equity in America, whether we're talking about politics or culture or business.
Yeah, to me, we have to embrace the assets that we have, and that's our people. Our greatest asset in this country are our people. We need to enable and actualize our people, and part of that means we have to build stronger alliedship around what are the areas that we need to address.
Are we doing that?
In some communities I see yes, in some communities not so much. Some communities are moving forward and some communities are moving backwards. But we have to create enough of a momentum moving forward, because moving backward is not going to be an option in the rate and pace of change in the global economy. For periods of time where you had disproportionate access to technology and resources, you could operate in certain ways. The world has become flat in many respects in that regard. Look, the U.S. has been a beneficiary of it because we reap the benefits of the products and solutions that we've been able to sell globally. But now people have access to that. So we now have to actualize, I call it, every able-bodied American to participate in the opportunity and enable them to actually create GDP, create access to additional jobs and expansion. That's ultimately what keeps us on the front foot of prosperity. That's what's important.
Robert, finally, obviously you're a busy guy, you're raising money, you're writing books. What do you do in order to try and shut off a little bit and rejuvenate?
That's a great question. I just actually went on a wonderful trip with one of my sons. And we went fishing for 3 days, and then he got me on some roller coasters for a couple of days, which was a lot of fun. But a lot of it is connecting with people that you care about. To me, it's listening to great music, listening to the thoughts of the youth, what it is that they're interested in, and gaining perspective as to where you should focus your time, energy, and attention. And when people ask, well, how do you spend that incremental moment? It's usually listening to music and trying to plan a fly fishing trip with one of my children.
That's the second fishing answer I think we've gotten today. What kind of music are you listening to?
Right now, John Batiste is my guy. Oh, he's just amazing.
Love it.
I think he will go down as the greatest musician of his generation. So I'm excited to participate with him in that
You
venture.
and I are on the same page.
Outstanding.
On that one. Thank you so
Good,
much,
Julie.
Robert.
Ed, you're seen as one of the best CEOs in the game for a long time. How have your past few weeks looked different? When you see a government shutdown, how do you manage your teams differently? How do you manage your people differently?
It's frustrating. It really is. We've had, our business has been doing great. We had earlier issues.
You just had record revenues.
Record revenues this year, but we had earlier issues at the start of the year with all the geopolitical announcements, the tariff debates, the announcements, the uncertainty that existed in the economy really froze the economy. And our business runs on economic growth. And when you have the economy basically stall, which we saw happen in the February, March, April timeframe, brought our bookings down pretty considerably. We got it back up June, July. Things started to take off again. We're looking for, and we will have a great holiday season. Things were looking great. Then all of a sudden you have a shutdown that occurs, something that comes completely out of your control, but out of nowhere. We can't do business like that. We need more, from our government leaders. So we have made our points known with all our people, our elected officials. Do your job. Do your job. And I understand there's disagreements, but it should not come at the cost of asking people to work particularly in high stress, incredibly sensitive areas without pay for weeks on end. That's inexcusable.
Is the consumer okay?
Consumer is strong, but again, it depends what consumer you're talking about. Our consumer in the experience economy, the higher end experience economy is doing incredibly well. And we've seen this for the last several years. The higher the experience set goes, the more premium it is. The demand, it seems to be insatiable. It just continues to grow. Whether that's international experiences, whether that's a hot concert tour, or last night I was at a great restaurant in the city. It was packed, hard to get a table. That's where people continue to want to invest because they see great value. They see great opportunity. If you're providing a commodity, if you can I can do this, I can do that. If price is your determinant, that consumer isn't doing too well.
You have really pushed hard into more premium seats. You are, in effect, reinventing the flying experience. Looking out, and I saw this, I think maybe it was in another podcast you did with David Novak, former CEO of Yum Brands, talking about how the flying experience is changing because you're investing so much, and you can think about investing over the next 5 to 10 years. Like, when I sit in a Delta seat, how will it look different 10 years from now?
Well, I think first of all, it'll become a much more immersive entertainment experience. This is a journey I've been on for a long time. We have 200 million customers a year, on average 3 hours a session. They're all seat belted in, all facing the same way. If you can't figure out a way as a marketer to create value for those consumers as well as for yourself, you're not very good. And that's what we're doing. That's why we launched free Wi-Fi at scale around the world.
Thank you for that. And it all works. It works great.
And it works. And we invested over $1 billion in making that happen. People wanted to charge. They said, no, we're not charging for it. Consumers deserve that. And by the way, all those other airlines are now copying and following us for that. But that's the platform. And then you bring in an Uber, an exclusive relationship with Uber. You bring YouTube TV. Into the plane, which eventually we have YouTube now, we'll have the TV opportunities expanding. We have a digital platform to give people opportunities to see content and have marketers have a chance to kind of get exposure to their consumers and take great advantage of the time you're spending with us.
You're even redesigning the seats.
We are. We're redesigning the seats. We're bringing all the new, particularly international planes we're bringing, full 50% of that plane is going to be in a premium category. Compared to in the past, where the premium cabin, the first class was really a loss leader. Now it drives the bulk of the revenue on board the plane, and so that experience set continues to grow. The lounges that we have, the JFK-1 lounge for
nice.
The international traveler, nice. Which we have in Boston. We have Delta One in LA. We have it in Seattle. Just the airports themselves, people still land in LaGuardia and think they get off. They think they're in the wrong city, and then I say, no, this is LaGuardia. We all grew up and realized the challenges of LaGuardia. I landed there the other night, and I got off and say, wow, this is pretty impressive. That's the future, and those things, by the way, can't change. There's a lot in this industry that moves around, but when you have the real estate and you have the footprint, and people see where you're going, that's when they want to join you on the party.
What happens to the average Joe that just wants an economy ticket, given the premium seat push? Like, what happens to them?
We have that product for them too. We call it Basic Economy. If all you want from your carrier is the lowest price, we are price competitive with anybody out there. Now, you will not get a premium service offering. Probably won't even get a seat assignment until you get to the airport. You may be one of the last people to board online. You may not have room for your bags. But if all you care about is the lowest price, and you still get high quality, reliable service, it's not like we discount or dismiss anyone, because those people are our future premium travelers. Every million miler starts as a 1 miler, right? And everybody starts their journey, and those people I'm particularly sensitive to that realize that this is an aspirational brand. This is a brand you want to be part of, even young in your journey, because you can see where it can take you.
Will AI impact how you price tickets?
It won't impact how we price tickets on an individual basis. What it will influence is the process of pricing. Today we have tens of millions of price points out there at any one point, because we sell 300 days out. We have 5,000 flights a day. We have all kinds of inventory categories on each flight. And so the complexity of doing that, which is still largely manual in many respects. It's not manual, it's run by computers, but very manual in terms of the oversight of that. We can do it a lot more efficiently. We can be a lot more agile and flexible. We can see where we're in market, where we're not in market at the right level. We can make sure we're making you the right offer based on the time, but it's not going to be based on your individual circumstances. There was a lot of concern whether we're doing personalized pricing. We don't have the capability with hundreds of millions of customers a year to do personalized pricing. But what we do is we can make the process go smoother and much more seamlessly for consumers.
If you'll indulge me, I have one or two leadership questions. It's not so often you get to hang out with a leader who's been, 10-year anniversary coming up next year as CEO.
February actually.
That's wild. What's a piece of advice you would give to young leaders about building resilience in volatile industries?
People think that, wow, you've had so many experiences with crisis management, whether it was 9/11, whether it's the pandemic, global economic crises. You've developed your resilience through those experiences, and those experiences build some fiber inside you. But the thing I tell young leaders is make sure you know what you stand for, make sure you know what your mission is, your purpose, what you stand for as compared to what you stand against, because you're going to need to pull on all of those fibers when you get through crisis. I had a wonderful board chair when we started the pandemic, Frank Blake, who told
former
me,
Home Depot CEO.
Former Home Depot CEO, and he was our CEO, our chairman for many years, my boss. And he told me, he said, you guys are going to get through this pandemic. He told me at the very start, we don't know what's going to happen, but I know you guys are going to get through it in a good way because we understand your values. We understand what Delta stands for and staying true to those values. And if you know what those values are, those values will be revealed during crisis. If you don't have character, it's really hard to build when that storm hits. And if you don't have the values sorted out, then that's when you start swimming around and going from guardrail to guardrail. But if you know what you stand for and your ability to lead through times of uncertainty, that's really important. So prepare for crisis in times of prosperity. Build those resilience genes, because it's going to come.
Last one, Ed. What do you hope Delta's legacy will be 20 years from now?
I hope it will always be seen as a great brand for service, for our people, for our community, for our customers, for our shareholders, that people really love this brand. And secondly, I hope it's seen as a force for good around the world. And when I talk about the second century of flight, and only 1 in 5 people in the world ever stepping foot on the airplane, that's where we're going. And that international growth and expansion will bring better understanding than any technology or any other service level that you can. When you physically bring Spirit together, that's when people start to understand and actual challenges start to get worked on.
You've given Yahoo Finance a lot of your time through the years. I would just like to say I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here at the Yahoo Finance FS.
It's always good. It's always good to be with you guys.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. Albert, this is the first time you and I have talked, but I've been following your work
That was a big mistake.
I know, right? I agree with you, but I've been following your work for years, and I still remember when I saw that first photo of the COVID vaccine coming out or getting sent away or sent out from I think it was a UPS trailer, whatever it was.
Yes.
I think it takes a special leader to lead during a situation like that, and of course, the past few years haven't been easy. What is it about your personal story? Who are you as a leader, and why are you, how have you been able to overcome these challenges? What drives you, I guess?
Look, I care about what we do, and I'm very optimistic. If there is something about me as a leader that it is on the very high end of the spectrum, it is my optimism. I think that nothing is impossible, and I try to convey that to my people. Sometimes that can lead to mistakes, and that's why I always surround myself with people that they are not optimists, so that they can land me to reality.
Where does that optimism come from?
I think comes from the story of my mom, that she is a Holocaust survivor. She was set in front of a fire squad, and the last moment they pulled her out because her relatives paid bribes, to Christian relatives, by the way, that paid bribes to Nazis so that she will not be executed. And she kept, the Holocaust survivors, they don't speak about those things, what they endured, because it's painful or they're afraid. My mom did, and he was talking to me always about what happened to her, but always with, not in terms of we need to hate, we need to take revenge, look what they did to us, never like that. He was ignoring Nazis. She was talking how her rescue was a celebration of life, that nothing is impossible, that she was in front of her squadron squad and she survived. So she wouldn't allow me to go and complain that I can't do my homework. Go and do it, she would tell me. Sure. You can make it. I think that is what gave me most of my optimism.
Thank you for sharing that story. And this is a good example why I love having this event. Dr. Albert Bourla, good to see the work you're doing over there at Pfizer. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming down here.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very
it.
much.